Say my name. I am awake. I am the danger. I am the one who knocks.
Welcome to Breaking into Breaking Bad. My name is Clifford Humphrey, and I'm here with my brother.
Caleb Humphrey.
Yeah, and we are excited about this show. This is an idea we've had for a little while, and we are excited about making it happen. What are we doing? Well, we are revisiting a show that's a little old now, Breaking Bad. When did it first come out, Caleb?
2008. Yep.
2008. So I'm convinced that this show is a classic and therefore will still be watched and discussed maybe 100 years from now, even. And I came to that opinion when I read an article by a now deceased scholar named Paul Cantor. The article is called "The Macbeth of Meth." And he frames the whole Breaking Bad saga in terms of Shakespearean tragedy. And when he explained it that way, I realized that's what I saw. He's helping me understand what I saw when I first watched the show. So we'll talk about some differences between Caleb and me. I've seen the show all of once, but I liked it. I appreciated it, and I could see there was something truly great about it. But when I read this article, The Macbeth of Meth, it really connected the dots for me, and I believed this truly is a great show that is a classic, and it's because it touches on on one hand eternal questions that humans are always asking, but it's also doing that in contemporary terms, and so it helps people in our generation understand modern life, what it's like living in suburbia while still having an eternal soul that appreciates beauty and desires nobility and greatness and all those things in the situation of modernity, which seems to be lacking for those things. And so this show, I think, really highlights those eternal questions for us. So my interest in this comes from a kind of an academic standpoint. I'm a professor at Troy University. I teach moral philosophy in the Leadership Institute there, and so I when I watched this show, it brought to mind for me different themes that I saw in classical literature and philosophy. And so, what Caleb and I are going to do is going to discuss each episode of this show. We're going to walk through it season by season, and I'm going to kind of bring in the things that I see from my perspective. And we'll shift over to Caleb. So, Caleb, remind us, how many times now have you seen this show?
I was trying to think about that. Honestly, I'm pretty sure I've lost track. But if I had to, gun to my head, it's either 13 or 14 times. Um, it,
It's just
I
it's just a
know.
lot. That's just a lot of
Yeah,
hours
to
watching
say to
Breaking
say
Bad.
to say that out loud kind of sounds weird, um, but yeah. So Cliff is
So
coming
it would be
from
an
the
understatement to say that you're a fan of the show then.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm by no means the biggest fan, although that'd be an honor. Um, but yeah, so I'm coming from the aspect of just loving the show. Um, like I said, seeing it as many times as I have, and like everyone like that I tell like 13 times. They're like, well, what is it that about the show that you love so much? And I think like like it came out in 2008. I started watching um around 2010 2011. um and since then, when I first started watching I was in my 20s, and single, and that was kind of my life, and I was taking that aspect of it, watching it, and kind of saying, okay, this is pretty cool. And as I've gotten older and I've watched it again and again and again, I've kind of taken a different approach and found similarities in the show that I never would have picked up on before, as opposed to I'm
Hmm.
36 now. married
Mm.
with a toddler, and
Yeah.
before, I was younger, so th- this show really, it's not something you could just watch once, in my opinion. But it's up to the viewer, I guess. But
No, that's a great point. That's another reason why I think it's appropriate to call this show classic, because at different stages in your life, it speaks to you in different ways, right? I mean, we think that about things like the Bible, right? Like you don't just read it at one point and say, I've read it. It kind of reads you throughout your life.
mhm.
Different things speak to you. So likewise, in this show, there are different components perhaps of modernity that kind of speak to you. So anyway, Caleb is the by far and away the expert on the show. He's going to be pointing out details that I definitely did not pick up on the first time I watched it, which was many, many years ago. So I'm watching it kind of from the perspective of somebody who's I know the general, arc of the story, but it's been so long. All this is very fresh for me. Not for Caleb though. It's only been a few months probably since he's seen it. So we are going to, like I said, creep through episode by episode and comment on each one. And we invite you to break into Breaking Bad with us. Watch an episode of the show and then listen to an episode of the podcast. That's kind of how we envisioned it. And, this is really just something that we're doing for fun, something that we thought would be enjoyable and worthwhile. And we think that it would be a great, conversation starter for the two of us to be able to have some great conversations. And we thought, I don't know, there might be some people out there who would want to share the conversation that we're having and enjoy thinking about the things that we're seeing in the show and taking a deeper dive than you probably would if you were just going to binge watch the show episode after episode. So what do we need to say about ourselves? We're really just kind of two average guys. Um, Caleb, why don't you start? What's your day job and where you coming from and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so grew up in Gainesville, Georgia, with Cliff. Fast forward to college, I moved out to West Palm Beach, also following Cliff. Stayed there for about 14, 15 years. Got married about 4 years ago and moved back to Georgia to be closer to family. Now we have a son of my own, and yeah, so I work in sales, inside sales, for business to business, um, in the telecom industry, and I've been doing that for about 6.5 years now. And yeah, kind of like what Cliff said, there's really nothing crazy about our upbringing. Pretty average, normal Joes. But um,
And
this
just to be
is
clear, you did not name your son Walt, right?
yeah.
Walter
No,
Jr.
no, no. As that would be great. Yeah.
Okay, so there
Um,
are limits to your fandom here then.
yeah, I think if my wife, let me do some things, it probably would get a little ridiculous. But I put it this way: I've played several. I mean, I've dressed up like several different
That's
characters
right. That's
for
right.
Halloween in the in the show.
And you've
But
actually won
yeah,
money, I think, right, Caleb? Haven't you won
yeah,
money for
I,
one
I
of the
won I
costumes?
won $500 for one of the characters,
That's amazing.
that you
Absolutely
see
amazing.
later in season one. But um, but yeah, no, it's like Cliff said, I'm just a big fan, and this was Cliff's idea. He brought it to me, and the first time he brought it up, I kind of chuckled, but he was definitely serious about it, and I obviously was turned on right away. And like you said, it's probably been a couple months since I watched it, and I was like, well, it's probably time to start up again. Um, but yeah, that's kind of my background.
I really had to twist his arm. He was like, "Oh, don't make me watch it again. Don't make me watch it again."
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. My background, like I said, is more of an academic one. I'm a big nerd. I love to read. It's what I do. I don't even have a TV in my house. My wife and I, whenever we want to watch something, we open the computer and watch it there. But it's not that frequent, just because we're big nerds. And so I've traveled quite a bit as well and lived in different countries. I spent a year in China, a summer in India, 2 summers in France, summer in Scotland, and so have kind of a wanderlust, sense of wonder, and that obviously plays into my love for reading and just imagination and philosophy and all of that. So that's the perspective that I bring. So we're hoping that both of our perspectives, as different as they are, will mix into a kind of interesting cocktail here for people to listen to. So that's really all we got. So we're going to start releasing these one at a time, and we're just going to watch the show one episode and then talk about it, and then watch the next one and talk about it. So that's all we got. But we invite you to subscribe to the podcast and watch this, watch with us, listen with us, and let's see where it goes. Anything to add, Caleb?
No, I'm excited. Let's roll.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, first episode will be dropping soon. Stay tuned.